Y'all, good evening. What's going on? Welcome to the Musician Branding Playbook. This is going to be our fifth edition of Sanaa Online, and we're super excited that are able to join us. And I look forward to digging into some branding and hopefully giving you all some practical advice as to how you can just implement these strategies into your own musical career. So, just super briefly, I am the artistic director of Second Line Arts Collective, and we're a 501c3 based here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we run several programs. We have two main branches. We do the Sanaa Music Workshop, which is dedicated to artistic excellence and entrepreneurship training for musicians. And we also have another arm called Little Stompers, which is family classes and music dedicated to our younger audiences, more specifically ages 1 until about elementary school. So if you'd like to find out more, please go ahead and visit secondlinearts.org. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gregory Ajid. I play clarinet, saxophone. I'm a band leader, sideman, educator. I've played with Delphio Marcellus, Michael Bublé, my own quartet, and I've been working professionally as a musician since 2009. And I am a co-founder and artistic director of Second Line Arts Collective. So tonight, we're going to be talking about branding. And I have two main goals for this workshop. I just wanted to help all of us have a better understanding of branding and also give us some tools and tips as to how we can brand ourselves, how we can begin the process of developing a brand identity and implementing those strategies to tell the world who we are and what we're about. So first off, this is my first question. What is perceived value? So on my journey, I came across perceived value. And this is kind of a crazy question, but just, I don't know, if you guys want to drop this in the chat, that'd be sick. But hey, who would prefer, would you rather two quarters or a $20 bill? And it's kind of a rhetorical question. Hey, I love the enthusiasm in the faces. All right, beautiful, beautiful. We're all on the same page. All right, no one's. All right, so okay, it's funny when I made the slide, I said 90% of people would write $20, and I was like, wait, who am I kidding here? 100% of people would write the 20 bucks. But what's interesting about this question is that, the core essence of both of these items, a quarter is made up of 75% copper. A $20 bill is just a piece of paper. And essentially both items cost 12 cents to produce. And the thing is that's different is our perceived value of both of these items. In the natural world, you can't really do anything with a piece of paper, but actually with some copper, you might be able to do more with. So the point of this is like, I just want to talk about the idea of perceived value. And everything in our world exists with perceived value. And the origin of perceived value oftentimes is branding. So perceived value is a customer's perception of a product or service's merit or desirability to them, especially in comparison to a competitor's product. So this is going to go hand in hand with, I think, explaining a lot of the ideas that I have in branding. And a lot of what makes a great brand is actually perceived value. So what is branding? And branding is the art and science of changing perception. The way we value things depends on how we perceive them. What I found also very interesting is that marketing and branding are all often spoke very synonymously. And branding is the art and science of changing perception. Marketing is how we communicate that idea to the world. Just to dig into branding just a hair bit more, so I gotta move this on my screen because I can't see. Branding is the process of giving a meaning by creating an identity in the audience's mind. A brand is a name, term, design, symbol, or any other feature that identifies goods or a service as distinct from the competition. It helps people easily identify and experience the product, and gives them a reason to choose it over the competition by stating what it is and what it is not. And a brand is a feeling. What is a brand not? A brand is not a logo. A brand is not the advertising. A brand is not marketing. A brand will use these things to communicate the essence of the brand, but the brand itself is not those actual things. A brand is an idea. A brand is a feeling. A brand is an experience. And essentially, a brand is confidence, it's passion, it's belonging, it's action, it's security, it's a unique set of values, and ultimately, a brand is a feeling. So, question. We have Everyone here has a phone. It's 2024. We have two phones. We have an Apple on the left. We have a Samsung on the right. I'm curious if which one would you prefer to be given? Which one would you prefer to have? Does anyone have any feelings towards them? You can just drop it in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, you all are welcome to just we can have a conversation here too. Samsung, we got one Samsung in the house. Hold up, this is not going in the direction I thought it was going to go in. What are you talking about? Apple. All right.
Hey.
Hey.
So I said Samsung because that's all I've known. And like when people hand me their iPhone, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. How do you hit back? So Samsung is familiar.
Yeah, I love it. Familiar. That's a good word right there. iPhone. We have another iPhone. Beautiful, beautiful, awesome. So, a couple things that come to my mind when distinguishing these two products. What does Apple stand for? What does it mean to have an iPhone? And the other thing is, what does Samsung stand for? What does it mean to have a Samsung? And at the essence of both of these objects, they're both phones. They both make phone calls. They're both, great objects, and they're, very well made and all that kind of stuff. So, essentially you're not going to go wrong with either one. However, I think Apple has the power of a brand, in my opinion. Um, we got Chloe in the house. So the power of branding, and Apple to me is like probably the behemoth of what branding exists on a huge, large scale. So right off the bat, it's not a phone; it's an iPhone. You know, the standard. It's like Apple is the standard that defines the phone market. Um, what Sarita said, brand loyalty. Unfortunately, we had a brand loyalty conversation in terms of Samsung, but the same thing exists for Apple, right? When you're choosing a product, you're choosing brand loyalty. And Apple is like a really interesting brand because if you notice in any of their advertising, they're never saying like today they released their new iPhones and they weren't like, hey, today we got an iPhone 16 and it's got, a million billion gigabytes of RAM and 300 things of this and 300 like a screen with a million billion pixels. That's like the least important part of the brand. And Apple, the brand personality is a lifestyle. And when you buy an Apple product, you're purchasing imagination, liberty, innovation, passion, hopes, dreams, hip, cool, fun, creative, trendy. Someone who owns an Apple product is all of those things. If you're buying an Apple product, you also may have disposable income because at the end of the day, a lot of these products are luxury goods and you're paying a premium, not necessarily for the quality of the product, but for the imagination, liberty, innovation, passion, hopes, dreams, hip, cool, creative, the brand that Apple represents. Apple also represents convenience, across all the platforms. You can buy an iPhone, you can buy an iMac, you can buy an iWatch, and all of a sudden it's convenient. You're buying reliability. You're also buying a blue bubble, right? You're buying belonging in a club. You're buying belonging to a tribe. Also, Apple has an incredible design strategy, right? Every single product that Apple has falls into this like minimalism design strategy. Like everything is super clean, sleek. It shares an interface across all platforms. And what that does is creates a sense of familiarity every time you buy an Apple product. The customer experience also works in the same way. Like, right, if you buy an iPad, you're going to be able to use it because you know how to use an iPhone, and you're going to buy an iMac because you know how to use an iPhone. And Sarita might not buy any of those products because she's on the Samsung platform. And again, it's not necessarily because of the quality of the product, but it's also a sense of familiarity. It's an emotion. And you know, this customer experience even exists in the stores. The stores are designed to be sleek and hip, just like all of the products. So, you know, on some core level, when you're choosing Apple, you're also choosing a feeling, you're choosing a promise, you're choosing a tribe, and you're choosing an identity. From my perception of Samsung, it's like, what is Samsung? It's like Samsung is just a phone. And a lot of people will buy Samsung because they hate Apple. They like literally, like, again, it's in relation to Apple. Or you can't afford an Apple, which is also, you know, Samsung is also a premium price. But again, Samsung doesn't have a strong identity. If someone owns a Samsung phone, it doesn't tell you anything about what they stand for, or does it like evoke emotion as to like who the person is. So even though Samsung may have a more cutting edge phone, it might be a better phone. I mean, Samsung's had, you know, there's basically all of these Android phones have like are years ahead of the technology of Apple. And like every year Apple reintroduces technology that's already existed on these other phones, but Apple has a stronger perceived value. And people are loyal to Apple because of the strong brand. Um, you know, anything that Apple puts their products on comes with the loyalty promise. It comes with confidence, passion, belonging, action, security, values. I mean, like they could sell an Apple water bottle. They could sell, you know, they can do anything. And you're like, you know what? I trust this. This is Apple. Um, I went down the rabbit hole of water. It's like, how do you brand water? Like, water is the most abundant resource on earth, and everyone needs water, you know, which is very different than an iPhone. You know, you can live without an iPhone. We've been doing it for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years, but we can't live without water. And so the question is like, how do you brand water, this essential element that just exists on earth that we all need? And you know, just using Evian, Perrier, Fiji, you know, each one of these brands means something beyond, if I don't drink this, I'm going to die. And, you know, Evian may have this like young appeal. It's European. Fiji water is like pure, healthy, natural. And, you know, if you're walking around with exclusively drinking Fiji water, like people are like, oh, you know, like that person can, you know, afford to drop $6 on a bottle of water for no reason. Perrier, it's like refreshing, bubbly, sexy, evening time, like a going out drink. You know, you have it at a fine dining restaurant. Kentwood Springs, I don't know what it stands for, but it's like it feels like kind of like the lowest the lowest common denominator. You buy that because you can't afford Fiji, and I don't know, maybe you're not sophisticated enough for Evian. But it's like the point is that it's nothing about the product. It's about the idea of these things. Another thing, like another tool that these companies will use are things like packaging, right? Packaging conveys the idea, and you know you could remove the labels from each one of these three bottles, and you would still know which one is which. You know, the packaging is consistent, it's easily recognizable, the graphic design is consistent, and you can remove the text and still know what it is. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, y'all, it's not water, it's Evian, it's Perrier, it's Fiji, okay, Evian, it's Fiji. You know, it's a story. And when you're buying these products, you're buying a story. So, you know, the power of branding. When a brand becomes synonymous with this is also super deep. When a brand becomes synonymous with the category of product that it creates, a brand becomes a verb. And this is super crazy too. Like Band-Aid, like that's the name of a brand. It's not the name of the object. Kleenex is, you know, can you grab me a Kleenex? And it could be like a Kirkland's tissue, you know? Google me, Skype me, Photoshop that picture. Hey, can you grab me a Coke? Hey, can you grab me some bubble wrap? These are all brands that have become synonymous with the product that they represent. So that's like, to me, that's the power of branding. Something else that I really liked too was this Seth Godin quote, and something that like really inspired me on this journey was a gentleman named Seth Godin, and I'd highly recommend y'all check him out. He has this quote. It says, "People like us do things like this." And when you're buying a brand, you're choosing an identity. Um, it's going to make an impression about who you are to the world. Again, if you have an Apple phone, it's going to tell the world a little bit about who you are. I mean, again, this is not based in reality, but this is what the brand, how strong the brand is. if you text someone and you end up being a green bubble, sometimes people are like, "Hey, why why do you have a green bubble? Like, why don't you have an iPhone?" And all of a sudden, you're like, you're not part of the club, and it becomes obvious that you're not part of this group of people. When you buy a product, what do you stand for? Nike is a great example of this too. And a couple of years ago, when Nike used Colin Kaepernick as the face of the brand, Colin Kaepernick was kneeling during the national anthem, and Nike decided to make him the face of the brand. And something that I thought again was like super interesting is like having Colin Kaepernick as the face of the brand says nothing about the quality of Nike products. It says nothing about, hey, these are better shoes, or hey, these are better t-shirts, or anything like that. It speaks about the identity of the individual who is purchasing that object. And people like us do things like this. So if you believe in what someone like Colin Kaepernick believes in, you're going to purchase this product because you're associating with those values and that idea, even though the quality of the product might not be there. I'm curious if you guys have anything you guys want to say. We have a small group of people, so I'm like more than happy to have you guys chime in if you all want to say something, or I can just keep ranting and raving.
Samsung cameras are better.
I know, but that's the crazy thing is like Samsung phones have been better for 10 years.
I was always a Samsung person. I would fight. I would just say Apple is worthless, Samsung every day until Samsung failed me and I bought my first iPhone.
I bought a Google Pixel once and I had a fight with someone about how much better the phone was, and the phone died on me like the next day.
Oh,
But it's funny, like today Apple came out with the new iPhone and there's like a button to take photos. And I'm like, dude, that's been on like other phones for ages. Like, come on, get out of here. But that's like the power of the brand. It's just like it's this idea that Apple has sold us that's like become so ingrained in our day-to-day life that yeah, it's really deep. It's like this psychological thing. Um, I Apple. Whew. So what is my brand? So as a musician, I'm sure maybe we can ask ourselves, like, what makes me different from the thousands of other killing singers, instrumentalists, musicians, rappers, DJs, cats out there in the world? And to me, that's a lot about where your brand will come in. So what is my brand? And so maybe these are some things, I don't know if you guys want to do this now. Please, you can, if you have some paper and you want to write these things down, I will post this on the internet also, so you guys can always revisit this. You can also download the PDF on the website. But when starting a brand, and I think what's interesting is this that may often feel counterintuitive to a musician because a lot of times we're coming at this from the music first. But just I don't know, hang with me for a second. We'll see how like this kind of makes a circle into still being true to being an artist without quote unquote creating a product for someone that's not authentic to ourselves. But a lot of times, what is our brand? And I would encourage all of us to create a mission statement. What is my purpose? What is my vision? What is my mission? What are my values? And a good template for this mission statement is then you can fill in what you do, and you can then write who you do it for, how you do it, and why you do it. So we can also create a vision, right? What kind of change do I want to create in the world? What are my values? What matters to me most? Some values up here like integrity, innovation, diversity, respect, professionalism, community, passion, quality, sustainability, accountability, balance, communication, teamwork. And I would encourage you to pick two or three of those as to what resonates with you most. And the important thing, the reason why I think this is great is because your mission, your vision, and your values are going to guide your decisions and actions. Your actions are going to communicate your mission, your vision, and your values to the world. So everything that you put out into the world should be a reflection of this core mission, value, and vision that you have inside of yourself. As I was doing this, I was thinking about a quote that my teacher used to tell me all the time. And he said, "The history is in the mystery." And the history is his story, and the mystery is my story. And what's really interesting too is that when we go through music school and all that kind of stuff, we're just taught to be great musicians, to play music on a high level. And if we play music very well, everything will take care of itself. And that's, to me, it feels like a half truth. And I think it's important to create a compelling story about yourself as an artist. Someone like Beyonce has one, someone like Prince has it. Every artist, Michael Jackson has one. Like there's like these legends of the people, Jonathan Baptiste. It's important to create a compelling story that defines your brand. And the story is not just, hi, my name is Greg. I went to Loyola University. I've been playing the clarinet for 25 years and I'm really good at it. I'm so good at it. I'm the best one in the world. I'm better than him. I'm better than her. I'm the best. That's not a compelling story because there's no emotion behind that. And what happens is that people want to come partake in your story. They want to be invested in who you are as a person in addition to your art. And a lot of us too, as if we're all musicians here, we're coming to it from a musical perspective. Like, I want to see this cat because he's killing. But at the same time, the music is just half the battle. People, well, we can get into this later, but again, you want to create a compelling narrative behind why you're doing what you're doing, and that will help people connect with who you are. Who is my audience? Who is my audience? I think it's important to define your ideal audience. How old are they? What motivates them? What are their goals? What challenges do they face? And I think that, as I was doing this, I was thinking like, hey, if you start with, hey, what's my audience? And then you create a product that might feel inauthentic. Like, hey, like I want to create music for 20 to 25-year-old whatever, college students. And now you create music based on that understanding. It's like chicken or the egg. I think both of them coexist together. So, again, if you play, I don't know, super avant-garde modern jazz, there is an audience that exists for that. And so I think it's important to embrace the reality that we can also come at this from a place of authenticity in terms of like what we want to do artistically, but also acknowledge that maybe there is an existing audience that is out here already existing. So don't reinvent the wheel. Find out who your audience is and meet them there. Have compassion and empathy for your audience. And as a conservatory trained musician, I don't know if y'all feel the same, but a lot of times I feel like I embodied this like idea of like, I'm an artist, and if you don't like my art, I don't care. Because that's what artists do. And the irony is like that's like a brand in and of itself too, right? That's a tone in your brand. But I think the people, to me, it's important to have compassion and empathy for your audience. And maybe your audience wants you to be kind of a renegade person that like has this attitude of like not caring. Maybe not, I don't know. Have compassion and empathy for your audience. And as I was doing this too, I came across this great quote. It's like, look, Nike didn't invent the runner. So when Nike came out with their shoes in the 70s, I think or the 60s or 70s, they didn't say, hey, we're going to come out with these shoes and now we're going to invent runners so people can buy these shoes. And so this group of people called runners existed for a long time. Nike came out with a new product for them. And so I think as musicians, we can also embrace the reality that there is an audience out there that wants to listen to your music. They just don't know about you yet. So we can say like, who is my audience? And we can put ourselves in their shoes and create art that they might like. People like us do things like this. And I also really love this quote. Art is anything that creates change in someone. So when we're trying to create art that changes someone, we have to connect with them. And I feel like, again, in a brand, something that's really important is that feeling of connectedness. Again, that goes back to the blue bubble of Apple, right? Like when you have a blue bubble, you're like part of the club. And then when you have a green bubble, you're not in the club anymore. And it's not that Apple ostracizes you. Your friends do it too. Your friends are like, why do you have a blue bubble? Like they put that pressure on you. So anyways, have compassion and connect. Um, Again, I go back to this quote so many times. People like us do things like this. Art is anything that creates change in someone. And I would encourage all of y'all too, in your art at the beginning of it, come up with your brand, come up with your values, but then once you reach that point, focus on creating change on the smallest number of people. A lot of times we can come at this saying like, hey, I want to be a superstar, but the reality is that once you can change 10 people, you can learn to change 20 people. When you change 20 people, you can change 40, 80, and so on. And so it's really important to first off embrace the reality that we have to change one person first. And from that point on, we can begin to grow our audience. I think for each of us too, as musicians, we can come up with a brand promise, right? My product is for people who believe. I will focus on people who want. I promise that engaging with me will help you get blah. I'm maybe curious, like, if there's like an artist out there that we can try and put words in their mouth for, like maybe like some like Taylor Swift or Beyonce. Like I'm like, because I feel like all of this is pretty applicable to a musical artist. I'm curious if you guys would want to entertain me with that or not. Is anyone who does Taylor Swift create? What do Taylor Swift's fans? What do they believe? Gosh, I don't know. I'm not a fan. They believe in Travis Kelce. That's all I know. But I think those are some things to think about. Beyonce is a good example. My product is for people who believe this. I will focus on people who want what. And I promise in engaging with what I make will help you get this. My brand identity. First of all, I think it's important to create a visual identity. We can create a visual language that communicates your brand's essence. And again, this is going to go back to your core values. You have your values, you're going to have your mission statement, and from that point, you can begin to create an image, a photo, right? If my value is hard work, we're going to create photos that showcase the idea of hard work. We can showcase our visual identity through our outfits. We can do it through logos, colors, fonts. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up too is that consistency is key. If one day you show up dressed like a cowboy, and then the next day you show up dressed like I don't know, like a goth or an astronaut, and then all of a sudden it's like you're sending all these mixed messages. Like who is this person? What does this person do? I don't know. But again, like I think consistency is key. Because it's, as having been a teacher for many years, I can say that I can say something 100 times, and maybe on the 101st time, people will actually hear me. I'm curious, just by looking at these photos, what you guys can decipher in their identities, like who are these people? What are they about? Because they seem so different. We got Lil Wayne. He's got a sick jacket. I like that jacket so much. We got Wayne. We got Wynton Marsalis. We got Taylor Swift. We got Marilyn Manson. And I feel like with all of these visual images, we're being told a different story, or at least I am projecting a story on each one of these people. But we can see that, Wynton Marsalis is wearing a suit. So all of a sudden, there's a certain image and a value that he's projecting based on that. He also plays a trumpet. I'm seeing like some kind of sophistication there. Lil Wayne, he's got tattoos on his face. He's got, we got a chat. Hey. Confidence. Oh, I love that. They got confidence. All of them have confidence, 100%. And they're doing it in their own unique way too, right? They're not like, it's not like, hey, to have a brand, you need to wear a suit. Maybe like Wynton, he shows up almost everywhere in a suit. Marilyn Manson shows up everywhere looking like Marilyn Manson. Taylor Swift, the same. And so it's like, again, you can own your own identity. And I think consistency is key. I got some photos of some of our students here. And again, with these visual identities, for me, this is my profile picture now on all of my social media platforms. And to me, I feel like, again, it creates this sense of security. Every time you log onto one of my pages, you're going to see this image of me, and you don't have to think about, hey, is that him? You just know it. It's a sense of safety. Another cool thing too that I was like kind of coming up with are brand personalities and voices. How do you communicate with your audience? You want to make your brand relatable, memorable, and consistent. And so like I came across this thing called voice archetypes. And these are like the ways you communicate with your audience. Like, are you the lover? Are you the caregiver, the explorer, the ruler, innocent, outlaw, hero, citizen, sage, magician, creator, gesture? Like, I don't know. So if you guys live here in New Orleans, you might think of someone like Josh Starkman. Like, he reminds me of a jester. He's always joking. He's poking fun at people. Everything that he writes is coming from this kind of joking, sarcastic tone. Are you a, are you a caregiver? Like, is everything that you're saying like, hey, I just want to make sure that you're okay, and I'm coming from, my tone is coming from a place of love and care. So a lot of us, again, this is all going to come down to who we are as people. Are you, and if you download this, you can actually, you can go to the website, and it has like an actual definition of each one of these archetypes, which I thought was super interesting. But yeah, just again, a lot of these things exist out in the real world and can help put us, maybe help us understand ourselves in a little more depth. Musical identity. So I don't know. The number one thing I want to say is, like, first of all, y'all, I don't want to tell you what to play. I don't want to tell you how you should sound or anyone's artistic aspirations or goals. That's not my place. But, big old but in caps, just some things to be aware of. Once we define our audience, if we say like, hey, my audience is going to be, I don't know, 13 to 20-year-old girls, they might not be big fans of like avant-garde clarinet music. Maybe one or two of them are, but we want to have something in common with our audience. So, that's why I feel like it's like kind of chicken or the egg. Like, if I really want to play avant-garde clarinet music, maybe 13 to 19 teenagers is not my ideal audience. Maybe it's like 45 to 60, males or something. I don't know. You want to build trust with your audience through consistency and repetition. And something that I've seen a lot of my peers do is that they will create a trad band, and they have like a traditional jazz band that performs for 2 years. And then someone will come back to see them, and now they're a rock band. And they're like disappointed by that. And I feel like the analogy that I think of is like, if you go to McDonald's, how would you feel if you showed up and all they had were tacos on the menu? And I think McDonald's is a bad example, because none of us are McDonald's in that sense. But I feel like the example is there in the sense that we want to have some kind of safety and some kind of security when we invite our audience in. They want to know a little bit of what to expect when they show up. And as artists, we can meet them halfway. There's so many great artists who have changed their brand over time. Someone like Miles Davis, or even like Nicholas Payton or Prince, or all these kinds of things. So sometimes, again, it's like maybe that change, maybe that cutting edge artist vibe, maybe that is your brand. I don't know. Something to ponder. So basically, this is kind of where I wrapped up here. But I think that ultimately the most important thing in creating a brand is being authentic to yourself. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. Be authentic to yourself. Art is about creating change in someone, so be vulnerable and connect with them. And I think that your greatest masterpiece is your life. Art extends past your music. And I think that like I've really embraced and gotten really excited about this over the last couple of years too, that like everything we do in life is art. And I feel like branding, I feel like how we present ourselves to the world, that's also an extension of our creativity. And we can have a lot of fun with that too. People like us do things like this. I would say invent a thing worth making with a story worth telling and a contribution worth talking about. design and build it in a way that a few people will particularly benefit and care about, and then they're going to share that with the world. Tell a story that matches the built narrative and dreams of a tiny group of people, the smallest viable market. They're going to spread the word for you, and then just show up regularly, consistently, and generously for years and years to organize and lead and build confidence in the change that you seek to make. So those are all some great tips from Seth Godin again too. And if you guys are interested, I would highly recommend reading any of his books. He has one called This Is Marketing, and one of my favorites is called Linchpin, which I highly recommend checking out. And that's what I got on branding for y'all.